Welcome, everyone. It's so good to see all of you. Thank you for taking the time to join this session. Let me just share my screen. Let's see if this works.
Does that? Let's just give them a warm welcome, a round of applause, either digitally or with your real hands.
Oh, wow, thank you. Yeah, no pressure, no pressure.
We can see your slides, by the way.
Oh, thank you. All right, so in this session, we are going to tell you a bit more about our journey of designing a short course. And we will try to challenge you to design a short course in active learning for beginners. This is what we hope to achieve in this presentation. So first of all, we will share insights into the opportunities and challenges that we faced when developing a short course. We will try to facilitate a discussion with everyone about the value and possibilities for designing a short course and filling a gap in the market. And by the end of the session, hopefully, we will at least have designed a course outline for the short course in active approaches to learning. That's what we're aiming to do today. But before we start telling you about our journey and how we designed a short course, I thought we could start with a discussion that I think Adam will lead.
Yeah, so for this, and if this discussion goes on for too long, you'll see me disappear because I've got to go after 20 minutes to a very interesting meeting about apprenticeships and how we're going to further develop that. So that's also course development. But for this, what we'd love to know from you, so you can pop it in the chat, or because it's quite a small group, open up your mics by all means. Have you ever designed a short course? Now we'll problematize what short course might be in a moment. And how short should a short course be? And as I said to Bianca, that sounds very much like a vocal warm-up if you're a singer. How short should a short course be? So the floor's open. Have you ever designed a short course, and how short should a short course be? So use the chat, open up your mics by all means.
That'd be quite interesting.
Oh, well, that, Marjan, is absolutely. How would you define a short course? How long is a short course in your mind?
Maybe something like 1 week.
1 week?
Interesting, yeah. So you see, in the literature, I think short courses are seen as something, as any course from 2 days to a few weeks.
So Eva says, think short course should be 4 to 6 weeks. Beth says one that's nominally 10 credits, so 100 hours. Okay. So
those like contact hours. Or
oh, good question. So maybe, Beth, is that contact hours, or would that be total learning?
No, that's total learning. So it's actually going to be very minimal contact hours because it's going to be a sort of quite an asynchronous course that's open to a large number of students. And to be honest, on the first run, it's not going to be anything like 100 hours anyway, but we have this sort of nominal idea that it was going to be a 10 credit course, and that's equivalent to 100 hours, but that's total hours, not contact.
Yeah,
thank you.
Tab, that's kind of like a get out. Most of my work is on short courses at the moment. That's not telling us, that's not engaging in the discussion, Tab.
Oh,
I was baiting you. I was baiting you to challenge me to answer it more deeply.
Probably
yes.
not an idea to challenge our host, but here we go.
Well, so yeah, I mean, I guess I think of a short course as anything which might take place over less time than a term, right? In higher education context, at least, right? So if something lasts for a whole term, then it's normally considered like a normal module. But if something is only, say, like 4 to 6 weeks, or a couple of months or one day or a week, then I would consider that a short course. So, like for example, I run Fundamentals of Teaching and Learning in Higher Education, and that is it's got basically 15 hours contact time, and we do that over 5 workshops. So each workshop's 3 hours, and we sometimes do that in a really intense way, like over the period of like 2 weeks, or we sometimes space it out, so it's like 1 3-hour workshop a week over 5 weeks.
Yeah. So again, there's different constructions of what a short course might be, what it might look like. And I think from some of the things in the chat as well, created between 15 minutes to 3 weeks. So again, that sense of there are different timescales, different time horizons. 5 weeks including assessments. Okay. If anybody else has got anything else to contribute to this, please do. I know there's a couple of people in the room who haven't added anything, under no pressure to add anything, but if you want to, please do. So I think what we kind of discovered was this, well, what is a short course? So we had to rationalize, how long should this be? What is the appetite for a short course, and is it over a number of weeks? Is it in a format that could be changeable? So we've got this learning and we can present it in different formats depending upon the needs of our students. So the same content areas, but maybe delivered over a number of weeks, or we can deliver it in an intensive format. And is that in person or asynchronously? Yeah, go on, Bianca.
That's why we thought we should start with this discussion, because we went back and forth with how long this course should be. Should it be a weekend? Should it be a week long? Should the engagement be daily? Should the participants only engage once a week? Should we create content for an entire week? Should we also have a point of direct contact during the week? So there was so many questions that we had at the beginning of the entire process. In the end, and I shared the link in the chat with you so you can see the final result and what this course looks like. In the end, we decided to go for something similar to what Tab described, meaning we split the content into 5 weeks. So we decided to have a 5-week-long course with both asynchronous and synchronous or live sessions each week. I'll talk to you about the structure of each week in a few minutes, but this is like an overview of the course. But I think our journey started by identifying a gap in the market. So what we wanted was to offer a very short course in teaching methods, in innovative teaching methods, to everyone who doesn't have access to, say, a PG cert or a bigger or wider or longer program of study, either because they're not at that point in their career yet, or maybe their institution is not funding them to do a PG cert. So we wanted to offer something for colleagues that are maybe hourly paid lecturers, so therefore are not eligible for the PG cert, or postgraduate students that are interested in teaching and they would like a taster just to see what kind of methods they could use when teaching students. So this is how it started, by thinking about who would benefit from this course. Why are we doing it? Why is it important for us to do this? Who would benefit from it? And then that's how we set the aim of this short course. Right. And then just maybe take you through the journey. It looks like it's a very long journey, but we'll try to be brief. And then we put together a Hive application form, which for those of you that have applied for Hive funding, I'm sure you'll be familiar with. Oh dear, I'll cancel this.
And HIFE is Higher Education Innovation
Fund. And I'm sure that each institution will have deadlines set for applications to HIFE. It's a really flexible fund that you can use for short courses, just to pilot a short course, for example, or for any other commercial ventures that you would like to start. Even, for example, say a summer school. If you want to organize a summer school, then you could apply for HIFE funding, just to give you a starting point. So that's how we started. And I think writing this application kind of helped us identify that gap in the market, identify competitors or potential competitors, and then think about the budget, think about how expensive the short course should be. How are we gonna, or what is the target audience for the short course, and how are we gonna have access to that target audience to promote the course? What do we want to achieve with the short course? What are the learning outcomes? What do we want to include in each week? And after doing this research around competitors, around what other short courses are out there that are very similar to this one, we decided that the short course should be 5 weeks long, and each week we should address a different teaching method. And then Adam can tell you a bit more about how we then developed a process for this course, because obviously it was the first time that a short course was developed in our department. So it was a learning journey for everyone involved. And we kind of wanted this short course to act as a taster and be beneficial to colleagues or anyone interested in teaching in higher education that doesn't have access to any other training. But we also wanted to make it useful for what we do in CADQ, so in our department at NTU, meaning that we wanted this short course to be a taster for the International Postgraduate Certificate in Academic Practice that will be launched this next academic year. So it was very important for us to start creating a process, meaning developing not just the course handbook and course documentation, but also a learning room that participants would be able to access, resources that would be easy to download, content, obviously weekly content for the learning rooms, making sure that weekly content was interactive. So we used H5P a lot to make it interactive. But what we actually wanted was to create a community of learners, because we were kind of mindful from the beginning that the participants are going to come from different backgrounds. They're going to be at different stages in their career. And we'll also have maybe home-based participants, but also international participants. So we decided that the only way in which we could do that for an online course was by having a synchronous, if you want, or a live session every week. So based on that, we organized a webinar every week for all the participants. And in that webinar, we would do a brief introduction of the asynchronous content, basically a summary of the asynchronous content, and then we'll design interactive activities for participants to work together, so that even if the course was entirely online, the participants had that opportunity to connect to each other, to communicate with each other, to engage in discussions, engage in active learning activities. Adam, is there anything I missed?
No, I think very much what we was mindful of, because it was a short course, we wanted to present a fairly knowable weekly content layout, so that there'd be an introduction, that there'd be an introductory video providing some core knowledge, then building on that with an activity, an icebreaker activity for trying to develop that sense of community, so that participants would feel more comfortable to share their answers with each other later on in that week. There'd then be some core readings and that core knowledge might be through reading, it might be through further exploring, say, a newspaper article, because this was pitched more at a kind of a level 4, level 5 kind of place. So it was trying to be as inclusive as possible, particularly for those who might not have that pedagogic background, but were interested in developing their skills and knowledge, and whether or not higher education was for them. And then what was really key at the end was doing a review to consolidate what they'd learned that week, with knowing how that was then going to feed into what am I doing next week. So trying to keep that conversation going.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was mentioning before, we started by identifying that gap, or a gap in the provision, in our provision, first of all. So obviously we had to go through an entire process of designing the student personas, thinking carefully about how to promote the course, thinking about putting together a marketing campaign. And of course, because we are in CADQ and we don't sit in a school, we didn't actually have a marketing team to work with. So we had to create all this process and think about how to create or design that marketing campaign ourselves. Which again, it was a learning journey for all of us, and I'm sure that we will change a few things. Now, looking back, we would probably do things differently when it comes to the marketing campaign, but because we had high funding, we were able to work with an external company who was able to reach certain target audiences that we wanted to reach, particularly abroad. So they helped with running a social media campaign and targeting different international markets. And I believe that even if, looking back, we would do a few things differently, the campaign was successful, because in the end, for the first iteration of the module, we got 22 students, and 20 of them completed the course and got a certificate at the end of it, and an open badge, because they are trendy. Adam was talking earlier about the structure of each week, and this is something that I will show you in a second, to kind of give everyone access to the outline of the course. We decided to use OneNote, so we created a layout for each week, but also a separate page for each of the weeks. Let me just come out of the presentation so I can show you what this looks like. So we had separate sections around development, around administration, and creating the web page for the course. But under development, as you can see, we started by creating a layout for each week. So Adam briefly went through that earlier. So each week we'd have an introduction and learning outcomes, and then an icebreaker, an introduction to the method or theoretical concepts that are discussed in that week. And this was done in the form of either a video or a podcast. This was then followed by the weekly seminar, the weekly webinar, and then there was another section on reading, further reading, discussions, assessment, and useful resources. So each week would be structured in this way. My internet seems to be really slow right now. But each of the weeks, when we then designed the learning room, each of the weeks had a separate section as structured, following this layout. And we thought that we found that this really helped with the organization of the content, but also it helped the participants to kind of know exactly what the week will look like for them, know what to expect next week. So we realized that after the first week, everyone kind of got used to having an opportunity to participate to a forum discussion every week, to having those extra resources if they wanted to, or if they had a bit more time to go through them, and also to come along to the weekly webinar for some live interaction. Right, so let me just.
I need to leave now, so just thank you everybody and enjoy the rest of the workshop.
No, I see you soon, Adam. Thanks so much.
Adam.
Cheers.
So after going through all of this process, again, what we really wanted to do was to kind of build value around this short course, and not just create a short course for the sake of creating a short course, but making sure that it was going to be beneficial to the target audience. So of course, like all of us have to do when we think about launching new courses, whether they are short or standard courses, is maximizing the department's existing resources. So we try to identify existing resources that we could use, and we had conversations with colleagues around their input or what their potential input could be, and we try to identify any videos or any other type of resources that could be used. So we try to engage staff from our department that were well known to have a certain level of expertise in developing online content, but also in maybe facilitating scale-up workshops or team-based learning workshops that were the topic of one of the weeks included in the short course. In terms of networking opportunities, we're kind of interested in again offering the participants the possibility to network with colleagues that don't work at NTU, and our main focus really was to attract participants from outside the institution, but at the same time have a small group of postgraduate students that are interested in teaching on the course, again to give that balance of colleagues that work at NTU and colleagues that don't work at NTU, and offer them that opportunity to network with national and international colleagues. Yes, of course, one of the aims was to promote our institution's key strengths around empowering and engaging students through the use of active learning approaches. Scale up is something that we promote at NTU, and NTU is well known in the sector for the scale up approach. So we were quite interested in having at least a week dedicated to designing scale up designing and obviously delivering scale up sessions. Showcasing the experience that colleagues have, again, was one of the things that we were interested in doing. So we invited different colleagues to at least come along to the webinar to share case studies or share some of their expertise in running scale-up workshops or team-based learning workshops or integrating technology in teaching. And last but not least, we were interested in kind of piloting this short course to see if there was scope for developing other short courses, and also using it to see if there was an appetite for the international PG Cert that will be launched the next academic year. Now, with this in mind, I'm going to go through the challenges, but then I will talk briefly about the steps that anyone, I think, could take to create a short course. So these are some of the challenges that we faced, both internal and external. Of course, like all of us have discovered this year, we all struggled with workloads. So finding time to develop the content, finding time to create the web page, finding time to have an input at any stage in developing this short course has been a challenge for everyone involved. But somehow we found a way for all of us to get together and be able to work together collaboratively to create the short course and to pilot it. Setting up the webpage was again quite challenging, mostly because we don't sit in a school, so we had to work with colleagues from social sciences and ask them to host our short course on their website. And we went through all the process of creating a web page using obviously the course template that NTU is using. Setting up the learning rooms was again quite challenging because, as we all know, at NTU we use a VLE called Now, but only NTU students and staff have access to it. So it was quite challenging to find ways to give access to international colleagues to that short course. So we had to discuss this with colleagues from digital technologies and find a way and create unique user names for international colleagues to be able to have access to the learning room for this short course. As with any other online course, I think creating a community of learners was something that was quite difficult, particularly because most of them knew that they were going to be with us only for 5 weeks. So that meant that some of them engaged more than others. Some of them were more interested in networking and being part of the community than others. And because, again, this wasn't linked to an assessment, and the course is a non-credit bearing course, there was no way in which we could kind of tell them, look, you have to attend this week because it's linked directly to your assessment. We did have a mini showcase at the end that each of the participants had to put together as a way to kind of trigger the fact that they've attended to show that they've attended all the sessions, and to trigger the certificate that they will get at the end. But again, because there were no credits associated with the short course, there was no way to kind of make participants or force them in any way to submit this mini showcase. Of course, the aim wasn't to force them to submit it. The aim was to kind of encourage them to showcase examples of good practice if they wanted to, and if they had any that they were particularly proud of. So we weren't really interested in over assessing them or in assessing them. We were interested in getting them interested in different teaching methods, getting them to have the courage and the confidence to try those teaching methods with their own students or with any other group of learners, because some of the participants were at the very beginning of their academic careers. So many of them were not yet involved in teaching on certain modules, and they were only involved in running tutorials or working with students and supporting them in various other ways, rather than teaching them every single week. So we encourage them to test these methods with any learners, with colleagues, with anyone who would be willing to attend the session that they designed, just to test those methods and see how they would feel in delivering sessions in that way. So I think at the end of this journey, we kind of came up with a few steps that I think you might find useful when it comes to designing a short course. And all of them are here on this slide. And of course, starting with identifying the type of course that you want to offer, identifying that gap in the market, thinking about what existing resources you have, because again, everything is time. We all have time constraints these days. So if you have any existing resources and you could reuse them or repurpose them for and include them in a short course, then that's always helpful. Identifying a gap in the market, thinking very carefully about who would benefit from that short course, who would be able to attend, and how beneficial will it be to them? Will this be time well spent for those who will participate? And then, of course, going through the process of creating student personas, designing the course with these student personas in mind, thinking about the final outcome of what that short course is supposed to support participants to achieve. And of course, what took more time was, of course, the design of the weekly content, thinking about the assessment strategy, thinking about having a process to monitor engagement, because again, you know that these people are only going to be with you for 5 weeks, but even so, monitoring engagement every week is quite important, and then checking in with them to see if they're okay, if they had the chance to go through the asynchronous content or not, if they had, say, many challenges in accessing the learning room or accessing the online content, or anything else that they might have struggled with that week is quite important. And then what we found essential, obviously, was marketing the course, promoting it, and making sure that you share you put an announcement everywhere on any network that you're part of, on social media, trying to get in touch with colleagues, trying to contact course leaders directly from other institutions and asking them to promote that particular course. Trying to maybe encourage colleagues from other schools to spread the word, to identify any colleagues within their school or department that might benefit from the short course, and kind of direct them towards getting in touch with you and participating in that short course. So these are kind of the six steps that we identified as being the basic steps that one needs to take when thinking about developing an online short course. Now, what I would like us to do today, and the challenge for us today, is to create a short course in active learning for beginners. And because all of us are interested in active learning, all of us are passionate about using active learning, I thought we could skip a few of these steps. And also because we won't have time to go through all of these steps. So I think what we're going to do, we're going to start with step 4 and then try to do step 4 and step 5 in this workshop, and then see how we go. I will share a link to the Padlet. The link to the Padlet is also on the conference Padlet wall, but I will share the link to the Padlet in the chat. So what I would like us to do next is use the Padlet to develop 3 student or course participant personas for a short course in active learning or active approaches to learning for beginners. Again, there might be a question here about what we understand by beginners. So will this be a level 4 course? Will this be a level 5 course? I would say let's aim for maybe a level 4 course if we want, although the course, if we think about it, if we think about the target audience, it's not really going to be aimed at students. It's going to be mostly aimed at academics that are maybe at an early stage in their career, or academics that haven't used active learning before. So let me just come out of this so I can share this link in the chat. Then I will access the Padlet myself so that I can show you the structure of the Padlet and what we aim to achieve here. Right, so when you click on the link that I shared in the chat, this will direct you to Padlet wall. So we'll start with student personas. I kind of put some prompts in for each of the course participant personas that hopefully will help us to identify our target audience and at least create these 3 different student personas. And then I've got a few other activities for us that hopefully will guide us through the process of creating a short course. And if we manage to at least come up with an outline for our short course in active learning techniques, then maybe we could develop this further and have it available on the website. So what we do today is not just for the purpose of this workshop, but I'm hoping that this will kind of act as a starting point in creating a new resource that could be used on the website and can be shared with colleagues that are new to active learning. So I'm going to shut up now and give you, say, 10 minutes to create the student personas. Do let me know if you haven't got access, if you can't access it. So I think that the only way to do this is to click on the post and edit it, and then add to each of the, and then click on update.
Do you want us to work on one each, or sort of collaborate?
Yes. I mean, we're kind of a small group. So initially I was thinking about breakout rooms, but because we're such a small group, I think we can have a discussion about this, and then we can start filling out the posts on the Padlet wall.
So you're thinking that we sort of, should we just quietly work on it, or do you want us to feed in verbally or via the chat and then one person edits it?
You know what, I think because you see, all of us would probably have a different perspective and different ideas as to how we would like, or who do we think would benefit from a short course in active learning. So I'm thinking if we maybe share this in the chat, and then if someone wants to, contribute verbally, that would be fine too.
Okay.
But then I'm thinking that, you know, colleagues could add more personas to the Padlet. So if each of us would create a student persona, I think that would be okay and won't take too much time. Again, these don't have to be perfect at this stage. It's just to kind of map what our ideas would be around who could benefit from a course or short course in active learning. I would play some music tab if I'd had any prepared, but I don't.
Oh yeah, could do. Every time I start typing one in the chat, somebody posts it on the Padlet, and it's exactly what I was writing. So it's amazing.
Yeah.
Must be a new feature in Padlet. It, like, you know, makes a hive mind effect.
What is quite interesting to see already is that we're thinking about different age groups that could benefit from a short course in active learning techniques. Oh look, we got to
Number
27, 160.
well, there's two 27-year-olds.
Yeah.
It's because they're twins.
They want me to do this course quite clearly.
You know what? Actually, it's
27.
It's a really good point, you see, because when we piloted the short course, we actually had some of the senior members of staff who wanted to attend, just for a refresher. So it was really quite interesting to see that, because initially we thought we were only going to get, you know, postgraduate students or colleagues that are very new to teaching or hourly paid lecturers. But we had a few senior members of staff that were involved in research, and recently their roles have changed to include more teaching. So they were quite interested in finding out a bit more about what other techniques they could use to make their sessions a bit more interactive and engage students better. All right.
Yeah,
But
Paolo, I don't know if it does have a version history. That's
Exactly.
yeah, I think it got overwritten, didn't it? I think that's part of the trouble. That's why we were saying about typing in the chat, because if you overwrite it, I don't think you can get it back. But let me see.
I demand for it to be returned immediately. My intellectual property has been stolen, been removed.
Yeah, I think maybe somebody in the Upside Down stole it, and now they're running a very lucrative course for 60-year-old lecturers.
Grumpy 60-year-old lecturers who prefer research. I think I prefer.
All right. So it's quite good to see, and I think we can all agree that potential participants could come from a variety of contexts and backgrounds, and it could be 27-year-olds or 60-year-olds, but all of them will probably be involved in teaching, and hopefully teaching in higher education mostly. I mean, do we care about that? Do we want them to be lecturers or teaching
Be awkward for a
assistants?
second.
Higher education. Yeah, it would be a bit different one in secondary education. So I think we can agree that the target audience is someone working in higher education or thinking about teaching in higher education, whose experience will vary from running a few workshops or seminars to teaching full modules. We'll have different age groups on the course, starting from 27-year-olds to 60-year-olds and beyond, if possible. We'll have participants that have either been working in higher education for quite some time, or are thinking, or are at the very beginning of their career and are thinking about working in higher education, or colleagues that are participants that are thinking about changing their career and moving into higher education from industry. And I think all this is important when it comes to thinking about what we want this short course to look like, what kind of topics we want to include, which is going to be our next activity. So I'm not going to go back to my PowerPoint, because actually what I want us to do is to use this Padlet for the next few activities. So now that we have a few course participant personas and we kind of know who the target audience is, what I wanted to do next is brainstorm ideas for weekly topics. So thinking about building a short course in active learners for beginners, so for colleagues or for teaching staff that have never used active learning techniques, what kind of topics would we like to include in this short course? So let's not think about the structure, the weekly structure right now. Let's just think about any kind of topics that we think would help someone to understand or have a basic understanding of what kind of active learning techniques they could use in teaching and how. So I think we can all contribute to this by using there's an icon on the right hand side of the screen. So if you click on that icon, you can add your ideas to this section of the Padlet. As you see, initially I was thinking maybe we should start with a definition. Maybe we should tell participants what active learning means, what we mean by active learning, before we go into specifics around techniques, around ideas for activities, around looking maybe at case studies of how active learning is currently being used in higher education or various other things.
I like that. Start with why, right? It's like the Simon Sinek book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, why active learning? Why a short course on active learning? Oh, very interesting. Yeah, Lorillard learning types.
Oh, that website looks rubbish. Who put that on there?
I think that's quite a good idea, you see, because you will want to signpost participants to existing resources. So yes, access to this website and promoting this website would be essential, I would think. See what else.
I'm gonna have to run. I think someone's got their microphone on there. I hear typing though. They might want. I've just had a phone call. Someone's about to come around and fix my car, so I'm going to be.
That's okay, Paul.
Offline for a bit.
Thanks for joining. Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for joining me. Next time.
I'll join in a bit.
All right. What else? Oh, there's a link to the learning types as well. All types of formative assessments. Yeah. Designing. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Benefits of active learning. Yeah. Oh, that's quite interesting, isn't it? Just discussing the benefits of active learning from a student perspective as well as from a lecturer perspective.
So Bianca, I'm not gone yet. I was just wondering, I don't seem to be able to add a post. It's weird.
Oh, can you know?
All that happens, it turns up at the bottom, so you can see at the very bottom.
That's so weird. It might be because there's different sections of it.
Yeah, I think if you double click,
yeah,
if you double click instead, then it, because I had the same problem. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So just adding plus.
Yeah, if you use the plus, it goes right to the bottom. But if you double click
okay.
on the screen, it will create a post and it will leave it in the place that you've just clicked on.
Sense.
It's because we're using the Canvas format, so it kind of just.
Yeah, it's a Canvas format.
Yeah, I've not seen this one. Well, not used it anyway.
It's just it allows you to move the posts about because and that this will be important for the next activity.
Yeah, if you click on the three dots, you can also connect one to another one. So I just connected designing your own course to backward design and constructive alignment.
You know, something I really interesting I wanted to show you is, and maybe something for us to consider, you know, in terms of active learning and how we generate ideas for short courses, is ChatGPT. I don't know if any of you have used it to kind of generate ideas for a course or topics. I did share a link to the free version that I'm using. Let me just see if I can find it really quick. Just to show you.
Yeah, it's great. I've been using it for loads of learning design stuff.
Look at this. This is something that I tried earlier. So I tried to kind of design a short course, a 5-week-long course, or 4-week-long, I think it was. Active learning. So it kind of gives you a few ideas of what to include in each week. Of course, that it needs a lot of work. But this is a free version, so I don't know. Imagine what you could achieve with a paid version. Share this in the chat.
There's also a tool called Claude 2, which is like one of the newer generative AI models. And you can do similar things, but it allows you to feed in large amounts of content as a context for the prompts that you're giving it. So you can actually put in like a novel length piece of information. So you could, for example, we could put in 100 ideas for active learning, the book, and then we could say, turn this into a short course with 5 sessions.
And absolutely. It's fantastic. I mean, it does need some help, and I think it needs input from an expert, of course, but at least it will give you some ideas that you might want to explore further. All right, so we have a few ideas for the topics that we want to include. And I think now what we have to do next is, first of all, decide how many weeks we want this short course to be. What will the structure look like? We want it to be 3 weeks long. We want it to be 5 weeks long. Now, I designed the Padlet by using just 3 weeks because I thought we were not going to have time to do more than that. So what I would like you to do now is I would like you to revisit these ideas that you came up with and then kind of order them or structure them or include them in different weeks. So move them about either to week 1, week 2, or week 3. So try to include them in one of these 3 weeks, just to see what would week 1 look like, what would week 2 look like, what would week 3 look like. Kind of thinking about progression as well.
That's great. Just to let you know, Bianca, we've just got just under 5 minutes.
Time, yeah, we only have a few minutes to do this, but the ideas are already there. So it's just a thing of moving them around into weeks. Of course, we should start with that. Why focus on active learning? What is active learning? I quite like this tab. What do you think?
It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. So look at week 1. So we'll start with an introduction to active learning. Why focus on active learning? An introduction to Lorilard's learning types. And then a discussion around the benefits of active learning from a student perspective and a lecturer's perspective. And then in week 2, we look at designing active learning sessions or using active learning. So designing your own course using universal design for learning, exploring types of group work, exploring flipped learning and designing asynchronous tasks, looking at peer learning. Amazing. And then in week 3, we'll look at authentic assessment, how to use active learning to design formative assessments, summative assessment. Fantastic. Thank you so much for engaging in this. Of course, this is just a basic outline, but I do hope that will continue working on this, and maybe we'll create a new resource for the website for colleagues who are very, very new to the use of active learning in teaching. Any questions or comments? Suggestions?
I think Eva had a point that maybe we need to make our course a little bit longer because we've got quite a few topics in there.
I agree for sure. I just thought we won't have time in just an hour to look at more than the first 3 weeks, but yes, I think it should be at least 5 weeks long.
I think we could easily spread this out to 5 or 6 weeks, right?
Oh, absolutely. Also, I think we should again think about the weekly structure. Do we want to have a webinar? Do we want to have a face-to-face or a synchronous, a live touch point for participants? Because I think that does add value. So even if the course is delivered entirely online, having that opportunity to engage in dialogue with other participants, I think it's really important. Anyway, thank you so much, everyone, for participating, taking the time to share your ideas and contribute to this course outline. Fingers crossed we'll have the opportunity to develop this further.
Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. And just want to say a huge thank you to Bianca and Adam for putting this session together. And a big thank you to everybody for participating and all of the great ideas. So let's give a warm round of applause for all of the effort that went into creating this.